Hello everybody, this is Dren608. This is another installment in the Unconditional Surrender C.U.C.U campaign. This is the August 1944 turn. I believe it's August 44. Double check. Yes, we're in August of 44. I am barely on the continent here in Brittany. He did a good job pushing me out of Nantes. And we did use his surprise attack marker to do that. And he's going to basically be trying to kick me back into the sea as best he can. And I'm going to be doing my best to avoid that. In the east, he made a... when the fair weather came, he basically made a wholesale retreat to the Polish border, basically the start line of Barbarossa, so that he could consolidate his aircraft to help support him. And he's got a huge line here that's going to be very hard for me to get through because my air will not really outnumber his air very well here. So he still has Finland. I haven't bothered. He keeps an infantry unit in Helsinki. I haven't bothered to try and take out Finland and try and do a northern hook, because in 1944 you really don't have the time to do this nonsense. You've got to push on Germany in this situation because he has the Middle East rounded up. I did try to do some things in the Middle East to try and make him at least keep some assets down here. I don't have anywhere for the 2nd British Armor to go, so it's just kind of sitting here. It does have a fleet and a convoy to move it to Europe. Or should I break out in France, I will move it back that way and probably end the real threat of invasion down here. I will probably keep this garrison here and a convoy here as long as possible to threaten to, if he completely abandons it, he's got to keep at least something in Suez and Basra. But that's giving him a huge advantage in the strategic warfare situation. So if you like what you see here, you hit the thumbs up button. If you really like to go ahead and subscribe, hit the notify bell, be notified to upload videos and schedule streams. Real life is getting in the way for both of us. So these are fairly spotty continuations of this game. I don't know that we will actually be able to finish it at any point. It's looking very, very good for the Germans. They have everybody. Where's that city? Here it is. He has Sweden, Romania, Italy, Spain, Turkey, Yugoslavia, Iraq, and Finland are all actively on his side, and the Netherlands as well. Which was go back and look at the previous videos. It was kind of a fluky thing how he got that. All these things here that say that I have these Western allies, they're all conquered. So I don't have any active allies. So I'm doing this, and the Soviets don't have any allies either. So this is purely, can my overwhelming air force here push through northern France into Germany fast enough? I can't really do the complete sweep of France like you normally would and threaten Italy, because he has Spain. Now, meanwhile, he does have to keep Spain, is pretty much garrisoning the coast down here. Corona is good for strategic warfare, since he lost Brest, he wants to try and hang on to that. Gibraltar obviously makes this an Axis lake, and he has up here, for instance, I think he's going to remove that fleet because he left it go on low supply, but he has a fleet up here, so that keeps me from just willy-nilly moving around. He does have assets that he can use to make my life difficult. He does not have his naval marker for the Germans. He does have jets and a ground support. So with that all kind of said and quick update of where we're at, we're going to go ahead and get started and see where we go here. This is me, I believe, just going ahead and setting... Oops, I don't know what that was. Yeah, I'm just kind of just setting up his production. I was restacking some things so you could see where my units were. So we're skipping the declaration of war phase because everybody's been either declared war on or is an ally of the Germans. Okay, excuse me, I do have one active ally. It's Ireland. It can't do anything because it can't leave its country. Can't go into Great Britain, so it can't garrison Northern Ireland. And it can't leave its country because everything's more than 3 hexes away from it. So it was sort of just like a, oh well, I have that, but it doesn't really do anything for me. So we have the Italian 10th Army. Oh, he was doing a strategic move, I believe, here. So that Italian army was there, and he needed to get it out of the way so that he could the heck are we? Oh, he started to do moves, and I was like, no, we got to do strategic warfare. So the Soviets went ahead and threw partisans. I mean, if you look at his national tracks, he's got no lost factories at all. Because he has a ridiculous amount of pluses against my strategic stuff, as you'll see here. I don't think we actually did combat commitment. Anyway, he rolled a 4+2 because he took his airplane out of Norway to help him with the invasion of France. So he had a 6 and I had a 5, which means nothing happened. Now he went up to being a +5 to my +2 because I couldn't get any bombers through, and then he rolled an 11, which I have down to a 6, and I rolled a 5. So again, the only thing that happened there is the British got a factory back, and then my ultra's coming back in 6 turns. So, well, that was the Soviet partisans, and a 3 for the ultra. So now we go into we did the economies already. He did some loaning. He gave some points there to Romania and Germany. And now he's doing some moves. So I tried to keep track of his production as he was doing his moves. Moves that garrison, strategically moves there. I can't remember. I think I moved the Irish by a strategic move, just like I say that I did. I was trying to clear the port in case I wanted to get, like, this guy, get somebody in from, I can't remember if I have something coming from the United States. Yeah, I have an armored unit I have to rebuild from the United States, and I was going to ship it in here next turn. And I did not have any strategic moves for the Soviets. So now he moves that 10th Army southward, moves this armored in that was down here, and is going to do an attack on the 1st Canadian. With that armored unit to there. So he's at +4. And this was his airplane. He's flying one of his airplanes in against one of my airplanes. Against my +1 airplane there. He managed to roll 4. I managed to roll a 1. Or a 2, rather. So I should be taking 2 sorties. I think that was the first RAF up here. So it's that one that I used. So he goes up to a total of +6. And then I am a start off with a 3, and I add in my airplane, so I'm a plus. Why am I a +6? It shouldn't be a +6. It should be a +5. There's actually a 5, not a 6 there for the defender. Now he's got his airplane coming in at -3. And I used the fighter command this time to try and... He rolled a 4 -3, which is a 1, and I managed to only roll a 1 again. If I could have rolled a 2 or better, he would have, or like a 4 or 5. I think it is 5. I think it's a 5 I needed to roll. If I could have rolled a 5 or a 6, I would have DD'd him, and he wouldn't have gotten to add the +2. So he gets to come after me again. So he again is a +6, and I'm at +5. He rolls an 11. I rolled a 6, which forced me to retreat. So he moved in. And then he's a 4 to my 5 because I use an airplane to stop him from eliminating the first Canadian or anything. And then we were talking about where should the where should the rest go? And we talked about maybe the he should have gone to 3287 or something. So he decides that he's not going to attack anymore. What he's trying to do is make sure that I can't get to Nantes. And this is us discussing that possibility of where should that armored unit go. He goes, well, let me do some other things first. He goes here, picks up his airplane, flies it into conquered Greece with the convoy, and has the convoy go back into the Middle East for supply. He's trying to figure out where he really wanted to put the airplane. In Athens or in Sri Lanka. I'm like, well, in Sri Lanka, it can't really fly anywhere because it can't go over Romania and can't go over Yugoslavia. And he thought, well, I could put it here. And I'm like, yeah, but, for the same naval move, he can move it all the way to there. And so we went ahead and retconned that. And, just so you know, we are not playing this so much as a competitive situation at this point. I mean, it started off where we were both trying to, quote unquote, win. And after the Soviet Union collapsed, knowing my opponent, who is like one of the top 3 or 4 people in the BGA rankings, he is very, very good at this game. Pretty much, this is a one situation usually for the Germans. It's a matter of seeing how far the Allies can really get. I have seen one game that it came down to one die roll for the Germans to win, and I have seen one game where there was a huge mistake on the German part, how they defended, which allowed the Allies to actually get into a situation where they could take Germany out. Germany did not have Italy in that game, but they still conquered or collapsed the USSR, but they did not really cripple the UK. So the UK was at full production the whole time because they didn't have Italy in the game. And that made it so that the Western Allies and the Soviets could actually get to Germany and manage to pull off a conquered in the last turn. So I have seen it happen. In the situation that we're in now with all the allies that he has, I don't have the ability because I have to leave something on the Turkish border for the Soviets. I have to leave something on the Finnish border for the Soviets. For the West, when I'm coming through France, because Spain is in the war, I can't just like send a couple units south to threaten Italy through Vichy and concentrate on going through the Rhine. I have to basically try and push across northern France and try to get into Germany that way. I really can't afford to swing south because it's very easy for him to have 2 or 3 units down here that just totally stops everything up. It's just the way this particular thing games plays out. Now, mind you, there are new living rules. They have changed the diplomacy mechanics quite drastically, actually. It's a little bit harder to get far-flung. Like it's almost impossible to get Sweden to join you as the Axis or the Allies. It's just very hard to do. It is harder to get things like Spain, Turkey, Italy. They all take 3 successes now instead of 2, which makes it actually very hard for the Germans to pull in Italy and get any meaningful allies in the Balkans, like Yugoslavia, Romania, things like that. It's a completely different dynamic in the diplomacy game. The Germans will not be able, I don't think, short of miraculous swings in pulling the diplomacy cup things, it's going to be very hard to get a Turkey or a Spain, and getting both will be nearly impossible. Which means that the complete conquest of the Middle East will not be as easy to pull off because you won't have a flanking Turkey. And if you concentrate on going and getting Turkey, you might very well not get Italy because you need 3 in Turkey, you need 3 in Italy, and you have to have adjacent countries in order to place things now. It used to be, Soviets could pull a political failure, you drop it in Turkey, and then all you have to do is just drop successes in there to get it to join you. Can't do that anymore. In order to place a success, it has to be adjacent to an active ally, which means either Greece or Bulgaria has to join the Axis in order to be able to do anything in Turkey, or Vichy Syria for that matter. Once Syria goes Vichy, you might be able to, but getting an active marker in Syria is nearly impossible because you don't have any adjacent Axis miners. So it's very, very hard to do what we're doing here. I don't expect to see another game like this under the new rules, where it's just this total domination of Germany, of all of Europe. Will it be a better game? Maybe. It definitely will change, German tactics and strategy long term because they know they can't, sneak in as Spain after they collapse Russia, if they can still do it. They've changed the reinforcement schedule for the Soviets so that if you go early, into Soviets, they get their shock armies and stuff earlier too. That's now a number of turns after East invaded, so you have to be very, very careful on when you trigger East invaded. Otherwise, you give the Soviets too many ground troops for you to be able to make any kind of headway. So there's some subtle changes there. But the biggest one is the diplomacy. They gave the Soviets some more. I don't think I have it on this map. Do I? No. This is not the updated map. But there's a space down here, like these 4 hexes, I think it is, and these 3 hexes up here where you see my, let me do this. 3 hexes in there, and then the 4 hexes down here are all now the same as this space here. So no Germans going to the edge of the map after they take Tiflis, and no going to the edge of the map after you take Saratov. So the Soviets will have a way to launch counteroffensive from here, and a counteroffensive out of the Caucasus here, as well as these 2 restricted areas. So makes the Germans have to defend more unless they actually collapse the Soviet Union. Usually if you get that far, your choice is collapse the Soviet Union or not. If the Soviets manage to hang on, through 42, maybe with only 5 will points left or something, and they get through the December turn, they at least have these places to launch their counteroffensive from rather than just 2 places. Which used to be you basically had to counterattack from the north. You couldn't counterattack from the south. The Germans managed to get to these edge hexes. Now, at least there's a place here, so the Germans have to have at least a unit down here. And there's a place here, so they got to have a couple units in this area, as well as the units to kind of guard here and here. And usually, if the Soviets are hanging on, they're going to be coming from the north as well, so you're going to have a line that's kind of extended, which gives the Soviets a chance to do something That's a lot of physical German units that have to be over there, which means they're not going to have a lot of physical units to stop the West over here. They have to make concessions somewhere as far as land goes. Okay, back to this game. Enough of that. I think he's just moved a airplane to the east. He's trying to get rid of the Soviet Air Force because it is fair weather, and he doesn't like. The Soviet Air Force helped me push him a little bit. So he's doing real well here, too. I'm getting terrible die rolls. So he used 3 sorties to take out 5 on me there. And he's doing it up here in the north, too. And he basically kind of blanked out the Soviet Air Force. So he's trying to get this airplane over here. I think we just violated a rule. Then he went after me there. Didn't do so well there. Then he's kind of just adjusting, trying to get himself into a little better defensive positions, have a in-depth of line. He put an infantry unit there to back up his armor, put the big nasty armored unit in nonce so that I can't. I mean, I have to have extra ports. I have exactly 1 port here, so I have to push. And if I don't get another port, I won't be able to do much with the West. I think he went ahead and attacked here. And now these attacks are what we call spoiling attacks. He's really not interested in taking the hex. What he was hoping to do is with a +8 there. Oh, he's +4. He was hoping that, like, with an 8 and with my +2, say I roll a 1 to his 4, I would get DD'd, which makes me less effective on the offense. So he was just trying to. See, he did a retreat, but just notice he doesn't take the hex. He's not interested in taking the hex. What he's looking for here is some DDs to make my offensive potential less. He's going to do it over here on the armored unit. And I think he's going into the supply subphase. Made sure everything stayed in supply that he really wanted to. The German unit over here and the Italian unit, where I'm most likely to invade if I decide to use my last thing there. And he forgot to move 1 Air Force back into Germany's, which is what he wanted to do, and I said, go ahead and do it. I don't know what we were discussing there. Oh, we were talking about what should I do with the West. Should I do some, I had 1, I still have 1 surprise attack marker left, and I'm going to get 2 more in September. The US ones will come back. So I was we were discussing, should I land here to try and cut off these guys and try and push killing German units? I could land back here to try and take Cherbourg and get myself a port. So we were trying to just figure out where's the best place to go. And I said, I think, do I do that? Because we were talking about, if I put the surprise attack marker like here, I can use these units with an extra +1 and try and push all this armor and everything out. Because he doesn't have air and I do. So I'd be at +5 to +4s. I add the surprise attack marker, it'd be +6 to +4s. Probably can get retreats, but I can't really kill him. And nonce would still only be a +6 to a +4, or +5 to a +4. So that would be very hard. So instead, I decided to go ahead and throw it in the C zone. And decided that I'm going to invade there with the 1st Armored. He's going to throw his tanks in. I'm throwing aircraft in. So he comes up to a 0 because he's a -2. And then I was a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minus 2. So I was a +5 to his 0. I rolled a 5 plus 5, which was a 10. He rolled a 2, which is an elimination. And so I take Calais. And you might think, oh, what are you going to do with that? Well, the thing is he has 3 garrisons and an infantry back here. The only units that can really hurt me are these armored units. And if you count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He can contain me, but he can't really kick me out of Calais. And to do it, he has to pull armor from here. So that was why I did that. It is the beginning of a possible second beachhead in September if I can break out against some other units. I still do have my partisans, which I think I'm going to use here, but if I can break out against some other units and get another unit in here and break out here and get another unit here, I have a two-pronged attack into northern France that he's got to do something about. And he's either going to have to pull something from the east or he's going to have to basically concede the Brittany Peninsula to get these German units back here to keep the Allies from just running across, this way. Coming out of Calais and just running into Germany is lickety-split. So he's got to do something about it. Whether it's the right thing to do or not, I'm not sure, but it seemed like that was the best. He was like, well, you could invade to the north. I went, no, going up here is too hard for me to cover with my aircraft. Here, almost all my aircraft can cover this space. So if I have multiple aircraft that can cover here, and I have multiple aircraft that can cover here, you don't have the aircraft in the west to stop me because you shifted it to the east. This is something he and I have debated for a long time. If it's possible for the Germans to hold off the Soviets through the summer of '44, which is why I did not agree with his wholesale retreat here in July. I think it was actually in June he started it. But his wholesale retreat back to this line, I did not agree with because he was up along the Dvina and the Dnieper. And I would have sacrificed a few units to slow the Soviets down through the summer and have them be here in September, because by then he would have crushed my invasion if he had all like 7 aircraft over here, or 6 of the 7 or whatever, because he'd have to leave 2 in Germany. But he could have 5 aircraft, which could concentrate in one place, because I only have either 3 British or 3 Americans. He can concentrate against one group of units or another, and just annihilate them over a couple turns, and then ship that aircraft back for 45 to stop the Soviets from making any deep penetrations through Poland. That's usually the way it's done. He tried it a little different way this time, and it makes it look like I have a chance. I don't think I really do. I still have to conquer everything in Germany. I have to conquer Germany. I can't just willpower him away. I actually have to do a full conquest, take every city. And I put the fleet and the convoys in there. I put a partisan here. And I said, we gotta push this German away. And I was hoping to push him away with a DD. So I'm 5, and he's a 2. I got a 10 to a 7, which was just a retreat, which was bad. Because now it'll be a 5 to a 4. I got another 10, he got a 9. I attacked again, I got a 6 to a 6. And I attacked one last time, I got an 11 to a 7, so I forced him to retreat again. And that was all I could do. So I basically got 2 hexes out of that, and I did not get to knots. So then I think I had 2 movement points left, so I went ahead and attacked the German infantry because it couldn't retreat. And got him flipped. So then the Americans come out to attack German infantry. They attack at +5 to 0. So do you want to use your tanks? I don't think he wanted to. I think he was saving those for the east. And that German infantry got kaputted, so he lost a whole will point. Woohoo! He went from 83 to 82. And then I think I went ahead and tried to take on the German armored in the city. I had a 4 and he had a 9. And then I did it again. I got a 10, and he got a 10. And that just stopped me right there. Which just, totally destroyed me. So I sent the depleted convoy here to back to North America, and I put a 0 in here, so now he'll have 1. I think that's all. I don't think I brought another ground unit in, did I? What did I think about that? No, I think I said no, I wasn't going to do it that way. I decided to take the convoy that was here in with Force H, because it had 0 as well. I had it go ahead and bring an armored unit in, so I could have 3 units in here for next turn, hopefully trying to break through that armor. And then I flew the fighter command back because it was not really going to help defend me. And I was trying to figure out if I wanted to move that convoy forward, and I thought, nope, I want to have that convoy be able to bring Patton, the 3rd American Army, next turn, because it'll have only 1 sortie when it moves into here. So what was that die roll? I have no idea what that die roll is. Oh, that was my partisans. They're coming back in 5 turns. Okay, so I kind of got up to the... I did not get Nantes. Nantes was kind of the whole objective of that push, and it didn't quite make it. But I had a paradrop, I would have dropped a paratrooper on Nantes and tried to break through that way, but it just didn't work. So, and I don't even know if I'm getting the paratrooper back. Yeah, I'll have him in September, so hopefully I will be able to take Nantes that turn. Problem is September is going to see me barely breaking to the point of like Cherbourg and the Seine, and along the southern part of my advance will be the Loire. I'm lucky if I'm going to make the Seine, unless he doesn't properly stop me out of Calais. Then I might be able to, make some sort of a breakout this way and clear up some channel ports for me to be able to use through the fall and winter to try and just assault my way across to get up to the Rhine. And then I need to hope for good weather in April, May, June. I need at least a couple fair weather turns in there, which is very unlikely. It's a 1 in 6 for March and April, and then it's a 50% chance, I think, in May, and a 2/3 chance in June or something like that. Depends on what the die roll is. So it's not very good chances. I don't know what I did with my... I had my chart here somewhere. I'm going to take a quick look. Oh, I have the weather chart up here. Where's the weather chart? Player 8 card. Yeah, you see in May, it's 1 through 3 in May. And then whether it's fair or poor doesn't matter. You'll get a 1 in 4 in June. And it's only a 1 in 6 for March or April to get, like in March, it's a 1. And then if it's poor or severe, it's a 1 in April. So it's a 1 in 6 chance for one of these 2 months. 50% chance for May and a 2/3 chance for June. I was just recently in a game where I rolled poor weather in both of these turns, like a poor and a severe. And then in this turn, I rolled poor and poor. And while I was right there on the Rhineland, I had pushed all the way across the same situation. I pushed all the way across the Rhineland. I was deep into Poland. And all I needed was a couple of fair weather turns, and I could have actually been deep into Germany. I don't think I still would have won, but it would have been a lot closer. It would have looked a lot better than it did. That was a BGA game, tournament game. Or league game, I should say. It wasn't really a tournament. All right, I think we're done here. The only thing I did is I said, I'm going to fly bombers. He said, go ahead, I am not going to intercept you. So I just counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Showed him the 6 cities I was going to hit, and then we stack them in the mountains so that we don't have to try and find them when we do strategic warfare next time, since we're do these things so far apart. So hopefully I will actually take him down a factory next time. I don't know. But I think I'm now doing the Soviets. And in supply phase, he didn't have any interceptions, so we just cranked up my supply and went on our merry way. So the Soviets just said, you know, even though it's fair weather, I don't think I can really beat the Germans unless I do combined moves like this where I can do an assault. So I went ahead and did an assault down here. He threw in his tanks, I threw in mine. So he ends up at a 4, and I ended up at a 4, and we did absolutely nothing. Because coming across the river there was very hard for me to get anything done. And here I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to take some territory here and try and do something here. And by moving that in, I have this guy starts off at 3, and then each of these are 2, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, minus 1. I should be a plus 8 to his 3. I got a 5 plus 8 is a 13 to a 4. So he got reduced and retreated. He wanted to make sure that, I mean, he was retreating into 4, so it's not like it's really hurting him. And then I think I did not take, see, I did not take the hex with anybody so that I could do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 was here. It's 2, and then 3, 4, and then I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can attack him twice here. I don't have any aircraft or anything, but so it's plus 2 to his plus 1, I think it is. Right, I rolled a 6, he rolled a 6, I did it again, I rolled a 7, and he rolled a 7. So he just laughed at me and said, no, I will not retreat. Now, unfortunately, that puts this armored unit in a very good place to be eliminated next turn by him attacking with this armored unit southward, possibly with air support, or at least negating my air support. You know, it's plus 3 to plus 3, so what? If he gets just any one lucky split and retreats him, then he could possibly eliminate him, and that means he won't be available for September, and he doesn't really have anything else better to do with that armored unit. Okay, now what did I do? So I moved this tank army there, this guy there. Oops. So we did an assault there to try and break the river. I managed to get a DR. I rolled a 10, he rolled a 7 net. That airplane had to move, so he just flew it back to Warsaw, and I went ahead and took it with that. Then I moved this guy. Is it this guy? I moved somebody. Yeah. This guy said, we're going to go on a very long run to there. That keeps him from sneaking across and grabbing Brest somehow. And then I brought this guy in, and we did a big assault on trying to break across the river here. We're trying to get across, what is that, the Prut? I think that's the Prut there. Right, that's the Neister up there. I think this is the Prut, where it joins up to the Danube here. I think this is the Prut up here. I could be wrong. Anyway, we're trying to get across that river to try and get into Romania. The biggest thing that I'm trying to do, if you're not really trying to figure out why am I doing it this way, I am doing my best to get on this side of this dotted line here, all the way along where you see my arrow going. That's a weather line. I need to be well established across that line by the end of September, because it's a 1 in 6 chance that you get fair in the cold zone, which is on this side of it. It's a 2 in 6 chance that you get a fair weather in either November or October if you're on this side of the line. So if I'm on this side of the line and I get one of those 2 turns to be fair, the Soviets can actually do something, which is one of the reasons why I did not use the surprise attack marker yet. I still have it sitting there. I also have a Partisans, which he's not in Soviet Union. I mean, this is the only place he has a unit inside the Soviet Union that I could actually use a Partisans on. And I said the partisans are probably more useful on strategic warfare than trying to take any hexes here because there's no hexes really to take. So, so this is me just trying to get across that river. I rolled a 6 plus 7, which is a 13. He rolled a 4 plus 2 is a 6, so he's forced to retreat. And I did get across the river. So now he's got a slightly different defensive situation to deal with. If you look at the willpowers, Romania's still at its full 6. Yugoslavia's lost a unit, so it's at 5. Finland's at its full 4. Sweden's at 3? Hey, Sweden in 3. I must have killed a Swedish unit somewhere along the line. You know, the Netherlands is 2, Iraq at 2, and Italy is at 11. They've killed an Italian unit. Spanish are at their full 8. Turkey's at their full 8. And Germany is at 82 now. I took them down from, I think they started off at 88. I think over time I've managed to kill like 6 German units over the last couple of years. So I've slowly but surely been chipping away a German unit here, a German unit there, but it's very hard to do when the Germans have full production. The only way that this really works is if you can have the Germans only being able to build 20-something instead of 40. If they only have 20-something, you know, like 26 or 28, they can't really defend both fronts fully. Something has to give. So it's an interesting dilemma. Okay, that was that one. What else did I do here? I think. Oh, yeah, I was just like trying to get people on rail lines so that I can use them next turn. Did I go across that river? Yeah, I went here. And I came across here. I don't know if I went across that river or not. Alright, this was an assault here to try and get rid of this guy. It failed. I don't think we... Oh yeah, I went ahead and took a long shot here and a long shot here. This is like I just have the points. And I think I stopped there. I think I didn't do that attack because if you look at my points, I had 23 here, and I wanted to do 18 points or something like that. So I don't think I made that attack in the south. Or no, I did. This is just me resetting. So those were like those attacks at the -2 guys, where they were shots in the dark to just see if you can get a retreat, just to kind of push the Finns around a bit. There's no reason not to do them. Down here, I couldn't get, even though he's only at a 0. He's not surrounded, so I can't. I mean, best I can get, even if I throw tanks in here, is like a +2 or something, and then he would just retreat into Ezram. So it's kind of a waste of points there, because I really can't afford to use the assets down there. Those guys are there to keep him from running around and grabbing factories and behind my lines, and the war is over here. So that's where we're concentrating. So we went through a no supply phase. I don't think we had to remove anything, right? No. Nobody wanted to remove anything, so we went ahead and went into replacements. So he does his airplanes here in the east. All 4 of them. So he's out air forcing me in the east to stop the Soviet advance, because I'm very constricted in the west. I think he did. Yeah, he did the one in Germany to help him against bombers. Did the one in France to be able to move it, and then I think he flips over anybody who's face down. Oh, he tried to flip that fighter over instead of just taking the sortie off of it. And then we went into the west, and it's like, okay, here's the Americans. And then we did the Brits. I couldn't afford to get the surprise attack marker back for the Brits. And then the Soviets, they make their convoy. This convoy is being there because that pins this guy in Stockholm. He's pinned there because otherwise I can just invade across to Stockholm and conquer Sweden. Finland, not so important. Sweden could be very important because that port would be on this sea zone, and if I get an airplane in there, I get an extra +2 against the Germans. Plus, it also sets me up for a 45 invasion somewhere along the northern German border, so the Germans have to pay attention. This also pins somebody in Königsberg because otherwise I can invade behind him and then cut all these guys off and do all sorts of terrible things. So this pins a couple units to keep them there as long as I'm holding a surprise attack marker. Which, come September, I probably won't be anymore because I think I'm going to need to use it to get anywhere. And then just kind of redid all my aircraft. Yeah, he's got 5 of his aircraft over there. 1 in Germany and a depleted 1 in France. So the West should be able to make some headway in France, but the Soviets are probably going to be stymied here. Only hope is maybe my surprise attack marker, and the fact that he gets to go before me means that he can try and beat my things that are across the river. He can try and beat them back across the river, possibly eliminate this unit altogether. So this could be a disaster for the Soviets. And now we're into mobilization. I built the Liguria there and the Italian garrison unit. Yugoslavian garrison unit. I think that's all he had. Yeah, that's everything. Now we had German infantry and an Italian garrison that I get to rebuild next turn. The Americans will be putting the 3rd Armored on the board. That's about the only thing in the West. And in the Soviets, did I even have anything for the Soviets? No, I didn't have anything to build with the Soviets. And there's no diplomacy because we're all fighting. We go to end of turn phase, which is going to be looking at the turn track and putting stuff on our cards. So, gets his tanks back for his Axis, gets his jets. One of those airplane attacks in the east, he used jets to make sure that he could get through. So, and then he got his surface action, and he has 2 submarines, and now he'll have the SS to be building at the end of the turn. So that's going to kind of stymie the West. He's going to be able to put an SS armored unit in the West and just kind of keep me from doing anything. Because those things they're 5s all by themselves when they're face up. They don't need airplanes. They can match American. They match the West's armored plus an aircraft. They're a 5, and that makes them Allied 5s. Makes these things stand at 5s all by themselves. So little overpowered. But right, and then we move these guys down. Soviets get their 3 tanks. I get my airdrop. I get another Ultra to counter his submarines. I get a heavy artillery for the Soviets, and I get an upgrade. So I can upgrade one of my wimpy armored units to a real armored unit, but then it'll be poor weather and it won't really matter. So we go into September, and then that should be the end of the turn. And I told him, I said, I forgot to move an airplane in there. He said, go ahead, you would have been able to do it. And so he allowed me to, because I always try and, when I have ships in here, usually, especially something that's that exposed, I try to have the airplane on top of the ships. Here I wasn't so worried about it, and so that's the end of the log file, so that's the end of the turn. And we are done. And I'm not going to do that. So there you have it. It's very, very hard for the Allies here in this situation. Under normal circumstances, I would not have played it out. The Germans get this far ahead. It's unless the Germans make a huge mistake, you're not going to get them, I don't think. We're playing this out more from a standpoint of we have been talking back and forth. We've been discussing the best moves, like when he was taking Gibraltar. There were a couple times that he was going to do something that was incorrect, and I said, "Wait a minute, think about this. What about this, this, and this?" And we actually got him the optimum attacks and the optimum ways to knock out my supply, so that he could take Gibraltar. If you were in a competitive game, you wouldn't be helping your opponent with that kind of stuff. But we were trying to do this as more of an exercise to show you what this opening can be like, this meta opening. If it works, it's a cascading effect that just kind of totally discombobulates the allies. The thing that I did notice is that this seemed to be happening once this game got put up on Board Game Arena. This particular kind of opening, once David and I played it a few times on people, it became sort of the standard thing to try and do. If it works, if it fails, okay, you're probably going to be really hurting as the Germans. But if it works, you were pretty much home free. There was nothing that the Allies could really do to stop you. They had to conquer all of Germany, which is a very tall order to take every city in Germany, because the willpower is so high. With 80-some willpower, you can destroy the entire German army, and they only lose like 20-some willpower. So you can like slowly chip through the entire German army, and they still have 60 willpower left. There's only 40-some willpower, 44 or 46, something like that, willpower of cities. So you'd have to like go through the German army twice to not have to take every city. And semi-competent German play is not going to lose the entire German army to begin with, let alone lose it twice. So, yeah, it's very hard to do. You can chip away at it a little bit. I think maybe by, July of 45, I might be getting inside of the borders of Germany, but that's about as far as I think I'm going to get. And we're doing this, like I said, this is more of an exercise just to show everybody kind of how this is done, ways to think about trying to counter it. With the new living rules, this will not be happening except in very bizarre, extreme cases. The Allies are going to have such a ridiculous run of bad luck and pulling political failures to set up a lot of what's set up here. Things like Sweden are going to be nearly impossible to get. Spain and Turkey, same thing. There's going to have to be a whole lot of political failure polls, which is a one in how many ever in the cup, by the Allies in order for the Germans to be able to accomplish all that, because they won't have the adjacent allies to place markers. And that's the big change, is that a lot of your political successes, when you pull them from the cup, they're called limited political successes, and you can only place if you have an active major country adjacent to you. So it doesn't matter if they pulled a political failure and put it, West pulled a political failure, you put a pro marker in it, Turkey. It used to be if you pulled a political success for the Germans, you could just go ahead and advance Turkey and then they could activate. That won't happen anymore. You actually have to have somebody, an active Axis country adjacent to Turkey, in order for you to place things there. The Soviets can place there all the time because, hey, they're adjacent to Turkey. And so can the West. They can place in Turkey because, hey, they've got Syria. They're adjacent to Turkey. Okay, and they also have one sea zone from the West, so they can place in Turkey. The Axis can't. They have to get one of these, Bulgaria, Greece, or Syria, to be on their side to be adjacent to Turkey or Iraq. But these are hard to get because you need political failures to get these, because you're not adjacent to them. So the new rules will probably make this nearly impossible to ever see again, which probably makes it for a little better game overall. Basically, we broke the game in a way that we figured out a meta that if it works, it's kind of game over for the Allies. We're going to see how far I can get. That's why I do play these out, even when I'm on Board Game Arena, when I'd be facing these. The Germans would be like, "Why are you playing this out?" And I'm like, "Because I want to make sure that you know how to defend. Do you know how to win a one game?" And I want to see how far I get. I want to see how much power can I actually project against this, ridiculous alignment against me. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We just want to see how far I can get. And so he's helping me too. He's like, "Hey, you don't really want to put," because I thought about putting this guy here He goes, you really don't want to do that because this armored unit will just blow up an offensive unit. You know, here I defend pretty good because I'm a +2 and I'm in a city. So he runs a risk of exposing himself. This guy here is going to be kaputted, and this guy's probably going to be kaputted. That's going to be his focus next turn, is to kill these two units that are across these rivers. And possibly he's going to try and push this guy back. He may just decide to go ahead and defend, you know, in the mountains in front of Romania and let me advance. I don't know what he's going to do down here on this river because he doesn't have an armored unit down here to push with. So he may be just going to set up a defensive line here and just say, the heck with it. You know, if I can... Thing is, if he can convince the Soviets to spend a lot of energy going into Romania and Yugoslavia, that's a very long road to get to Germany. The shortest road to Germany is through Poland. If I go this way, you know, yeah, I might take out some miners along the way, but I don't think I'm really going to have that great of a chance of doing things. The fact that the Italian Air Force is here is he's going to strategically move that either over in France to help mitigate problems with the American Air Force, the Western Allied Air Force, or he's going to put it over here in Poland and just use it to counter air, you know, Soviet air in the future through the winter, because he has no threats. There's no threats against Italy, none whatsoever. At best, I might be able to take back Suez and, you know, grab a couple factories for the British or something. Again, that's using up a bunch of assets that really need to be spent on going after Germany straightforward. The one thing that I may try to pull off here, I do have a ground unit here, the 1st French. In October, when I get my 2 surprise attack markers, since they're U.S. ones, I might use one to try and grab Coruna, because that'll help me in the strategic warfare against the Germans, trying to get their factories down so that I can make him have to make tough choices on what airplanes to rebuild and so on and so forth. But depending on the weather, if the weather is fair, that may force me to have to try and invade another port here on the English coast to try and flank German defenses, and then using them as, you know, if I get a fair weather in October, November, I have to use at least one surprise attack marker to try and bust through whatever German units are here to try and get myself. I need to be in Belgium and along the Meuse at least by the end of 44 to have any kind of chance. You know, with a few fair weather turns, I can possibly break into Germany and get to this factory line and maybe get up to Frankfurt. But I think that's all the farther I'm going to get, because these SS armored units are going to pretty much stop me from doing anything. And the Soviets, depending on how well he blunts me here, if I can get a good surprise attack marker off and get some pushes, I might be able to be like Danzig, Posen by the end of 44. And then somewhere down here through the Carpathian Mountains. I don't know how this line's going to pan out. It's going to be a matter of what he defends and what I can manage to push away. But it's going to be very, very hard to get anywhere because of all the bad terrain in here. And there's a whole lot of rivers in here, the Vistula and the Vorta. And, trying to bust through this is a very hard thing to do. Okay. All right, well, I don't know when we're going to be able to play our September turn. Like I said, real life is getting kind of in the way for both of us. But if you like what you see here, hit the thumbs up button. If you really like to see, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notify bell. Be notified of upload videos and schedule streams. Forewarning, on my channel, I have been doing a lot of... I did a very long series on a computer role-playing game. I started to play some other computer war game called Panzer Corps 2. That failed miserably as far as me being able to complete the game because I didn't understand the mechanics. It was sort of a first-time playthrough, blind playthrough kind of thing. Same thing with my computer role-playing games. I'm trying to do those as either blind playthroughs, or once I've played them, then I will probably do like speed runs to give you different perspectives on how things get done. But in general, I'm trying to do blind playthroughs there, and with the war games, I'm trying to do Vassal sandbox here so that you can see how things can work and how you can to deal with them. Okay. All right. I'm Gen 608. Until we meet again, stay safe and bye-bye.